You guys are right to go.
Hey guys, Katie here from Equestrian Movement, and welcome to our 5th presentation for our first Do No Harm Summit. We've had such an epic, yay, I got 5 right. We've had such an epic day already, so many teachings, so many learning, so many passionate people about ponies. And fun doesn't stop yet, because Jane's about to bring all of her knowledge to the table as well. So we talked about thinking business in the modern world with our horses. We've talked about bit injuries. We've talked about hoof care. If you are looking to catch up on those, you can find the replay in the Facebook group, but they will also be getting sent through to you via email. And you'll have plenty of time to watch and rewatch, as I will be rewatching because I'm going to take some notes. If you have any questions while we're watching live, feel free to comment in both chats, and we'll push them through to Jane so that she can answer on her toes. If you have any questions after we are live, hashtag replay, and Jane will be able to get back to you and answer those questions after we've finished. So we are talking about aromatherapy for horses and humans. Jane is an amazing aromatherapist. I don't think I've met anybody so passionate about essential oils and so diligent in her research and contraindications and making sure that we are doing safe things for our horses when we're treating them. When we talk about first do no harm for our horses, Jane is my golden standard. The amount of effort that she puts into checking that we're not giving anything to our horses that's going to harm them in any way first and foremost, and then help them deal with their different issues. Jane is my go-to girl. We've worked on ligament and tendon issues with Fitty, putting his leg down a rabbit hole. We've worked on anxiety with King. I used his anxiety blend for a funeral, which was brilliant for grief. We've done stretch marks for me being pregnant. My allergies for sinusitis. I've seen some brilliant testimonials from treatments with my students' horses. Jane's done sarcoids. I can't remember what you treated Darcy for, but the vets didn't think that they would be able to fix his problem with the hole that he had.
Cutaneous, I can't think of the last part, but it's at the end of the slides.
Yeah, Jane just is a magician when it comes, or a witch when it comes to essential oil blends and working with animals. The work that she does is absolutely brilliant, and I cannot speak highly enough of her, as you can tell. But we'll pass it over to Jane, and you can start your session.
Thanks, Katie, and I absolutely love Katie's work. It's how we just started talking. It was one of those freak things. Okay, so I'm Jane from EVOKE Aromatics, and I love everything to do with aromatherapy. This presentation is about the fundamentals, but mostly I'm hoping that you get out of the nature of what aromatherapy truly is and the use of essential oils, from diluting to myth busting and carrier oils, how important it is to use pure natural carrier bases, because you're just basically putting poop on your work when you don't. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the olfactory system and the limbic system, how they work for us as riders and how they work for our horses, and how hopefully we can integrate the two of them together to help improve not just the bond, but when you and your horse are having issues, if you're playing off each other. So if you've got a problem with a specific thing, your horse will pick that up. If your horse has a problem with something, you will pick that up. and that can affect both of yous on an emotional scale as well as a mental scale with memories and just sharing those sorts of things, because the limbic system does a lot of that. Okay, so about me, I just happen to be a aromatherapist who talks to animals, plays with energy and reads cards. I've been working with aromatherapy for 23 plus years. I've been around animals since I was 5 days of age, learning to walk with our German Shepherds. I've had pretty much every pet you can think of. I was mentored by a veterinarian when I was only 13, and he was with me right through till I was 18, because that was the path I wanted to take. And he mentored me, but he didn't teach me from the clinical perspective. He asked me to feel, not think, which is a big part of how I work, which is my intuitive aspect. And my knowledge of the essential oils also goes into my intuitive nature with essential oils. I'm pretty much someone who loves flowers and used to get in trouble because I rolled around in them when I was a kid because I'd put them all over my bed. Mum didn't appreciate that. So how I love to work with my horses and my riders, or even with dogs, because this gorgeous chestnut mare here, that's my Kellyanne, and we've been together now for over 29 and a half years, which is like a huge chunk of my life and almost all of hers. But I like to work with each other as an independent individual, taking into consideration what your particular issues are, the horse's issues are, and then also working in with the medical, if there's any medical problems or medications that you are taking, so that I can avoid the pit holes that can come through with this. So when I talk about that, if you're on blood thinning medication, then using rose oil is detrimental to your health because it's a coagulant. If you've got high blood pressure, then using rosemary for pain management is detrimental to your health, whether it's for your horse or for you. Okay, so these are little things that you need to consider and understand. This beautiful little mare is Shelley. Now, she was only a month old here, and as you can tell, there was a real strong bond between us, and I lost her 7 years ago and still not over it. But she damaged her tendons and ended up with concussion laminitis. To work with her with this, the vet said to me, look, there's nothing we can do. You either put her down, pray for a miracle, bandage her legs. So I started treating her with aromatherapy. This beautiful baby, and she was 2 when I started, and she should be 24 in September. So that's 22 years of working straight off the bat with horses. I would massage her tendons twice daily with a gel-based aromatherapy product to help reduce inflammation, ease pain, and help her tendons to heal. Then when the concussion laminitis came out, I created a balm, and that was how, well, the rotation went back and she only ended up flat hoofed. So, but it's dedication and a lot of work. It's not just, oh yeah, here, smell this and it's over and done with. It doesn't work like that. Okay, so aromatherapy is actually defined as the art and science of using essential oils. But for me personally, especially working with animals and being such a natural worker, it includes the natural carrier oils. These have to be cold pressed. Hydrosols. Now, I'm going to put a little side note here with hydrosols. They are the byproduct of the essential oil process. Now, what I mean by byproduct, this is the bit that they drain out after they've got the oil from the plant matter. These have trace elements of the essential oil. Now, what you will find a lot of are infused waters. Now, these infused waters have glycerine and potassium sulfate or sodium something to help bind the water to the oil. So they aren't what you want. You want a pure hydrosol, and that hydrosols and infused waters are what I prefer to use on small mammals such as cats and ferrets, for starters. So it is also about restoring balance to health and well-being. It's about getting the mind, the body, and the spirit to come back together and meet at the heart center. Now, most people know that aromatherapy was coined by a Frenchman, but it was named for the fact that the beautiful aromas we are given from plant material. Okay, so that is basically how aromatherapy was named. That's why it's not changed from essential oils or anything like that. Okay, so essential oils are the essence derived from plant materials. These include flowers, bark, seeds, woods, grasses, leaves, fruits. Now, most people think that these are oils. They're not oils. They are actually chemicals. These are the chemicals of the plant. So you're using naturally formed chemicals. This is why when anyone talks about saying, oh, you can get a chemical burn from this, or you have to be careful of toxic shock with that, that is because they are actually chemicals that we're using. Okay. Now, you put a neat essential oil on your skin or a child's skin, you're risking yourself getting a chemical burn. Now, animals, especially horses and dogs, and actually all animals, have a lot more nerve endings in their skin than what we do. So you have to take that into consideration. Okay, so using them with the dilution levels that they recommend, it's totally off base. They're not the same as the oils that were used during ancient times, which a lot of people want to tell you. And they do affect medications, medical conditions, and a whole range of things. So caution is really required when you use them. So what I've done here is I've put like a little table together of commonly used essential oils that most people go, oh, yeah, they're fine. It doesn't do anything. Eucalyptus, even though it's excellent for pain relief, colds and flus, and people will dilute it, there are so many people who cannot tolerate it because of its 1,8-phenol, which is an oxide. Now this is in the chemical, so I do hope I don't lose anybody, but it's an oxide, and oxides are neurotoxins. And neurotoxins can affect conditions such as epilepsy, or anyone who has had a brain injury. They can bring on seizures. Peppermint is well known for people who have epilepsy, that they can use it for a certain amount of time or small amount dilutions, and then they can end up having an epilepsy episode. Okay, so with frankincense, excellent for killing off free radicals. I use it. It's a great oil. It can push people over the edge that are depressed or grieving. So you have to understand the emotional side of the individual, where they are emotionally. If they're grieving, you can actually be doing detriment to their health. Lavender lowers blood pressure, and believe it or not, more people are allergic to lavender than you'd ever imagine. It was actually one of my big learning curves, because I'm like, oh, who would ever be allergic to lavender? Trust me, there's a lot. And pregnancy, it does cause miscarriages during the first trimester. It has proven to do so. Some of the chemicals used in these oils are actually abortives. And then there are some that, as I said, are neurotoxins. They are kidney toxins. They are liver toxins. So think for a moment what that does to a developing body. If you're pumping neurotoxins, liver toxins, what is that doing in kidney toxins to that body that is not yet fully developed, is growing? And this is the same when working with young horses. Young horses, pups, I don't start using oils until they're over a year old. I use hydrosols and something more gentle. Okay, carriers, now as I said before, use a high quality natural cold pressed carrier. You need it to be as natural as possible. You don't want to use refined, because refined and fractionated oils, they have no nutritional value whatsoever, which the skin, because you're using it topically, requires. So you need to make sure that what you're using has your vitamins A, B, your entire B group vitamins, which rose hip has B1, B2, B3, 5, and 6. Okay. Vitamin C, D, E, F, and K. These oils carry all of these, and not only that, they carry omega fatty acids. 3, 6, and 9, which 9 is sometimes a little bit more difficult to get, but it's in olive oil, it's in rosehip, and if I'm not mistaken, apricot. So there's a lot of nutritional value, and most people think, I don't want the color, I don't want the smell. Deal with the color, deal with the smell, because you're actually losing valuable ingredients, okay? Now, they do affect also medications and medical conditions. These are, primrose oil is probably one of the best for this. Primrose oil is renowned for affecting the female reproductive system, our hormone system. It affects blood sugar levels, blood pressure levels. So if you're taking anything that affects that, it will affect those medications, it will interact, okay? Okay, now pregnancy, I just touched on a little bit of that. You want to be careful with the toxins. And this goes for mares in foal as well. I do not treat pregnant women or pregnant animals because the risk to them is so high. And I personally would not like that on my conscience. I don't think I could handle having someone say to me, I had a treatment and then I had a miscarriage. Whether what I used was the basis of it or not, it's just not something that really does well with me. Essential oils are effectively 80 to 90% stronger, and the more research they do into improving the quality of oil and distilling practices, the stronger these oils are becoming. Okay, so if you're taking herbs and you're herbalist, Katie can agree with this, and I'm sure she will. She does not give herbs to pregnant women and would say, don't feed that herb to your horse because I wouldn't give it to a pregnant woman. So it goes the same way. We have to really consider the life of the other. It's not about you, it's about them. It's never about us. It's always got to be, they have to be, when you're doing no harm, the emphasis has to be on their health and well-being, not on who you are and what you're going to get named for. So this is getting into a little bit of the meat and the bones now. This is about dilutions. You'll hear most people say 2.5% dilution for an adult. Yeah, but it depends on where you're using it and what you're using it for, okay? The elderly, I reduce it down because their bodies are slowing down like a child's. They're actually doing the reverse from a child. Depends on the health of that particular elderly person, but mostly. Now with children, I don't treat children until they're about 6 to 7 years of age, when they can articulate, Mum, I feel like crap. And they can tell me how they are feeling. If they can't say to me, I have a headache, or I'm dizzy, or I feel sick, then I can't treat that child, because then I don't know if they're having a form of toxic shock. And this is the big thing that we need to consider with horses as well. Okay, a horse can't sit there and say to me, oh my God, I've got a headache, I feel sick, I want to vomit, I'm shaking. They can't tell us this, and they are common symptoms of toxic shock. So you need to take all of that into consideration, as well as the general health, medications, past issues, emotions, age, the whole. It's not this tiny little thing, it's this massive thing that you need to really look into when you're using essential oils. Technically speaking, you are using chemicals for medicinal purposes. In saying that, you can work quite comfortably and easily with any veterinarian. There is no reason why an aromatherapist cannot work with a veterinarian. I have proved it over and over again. It's about not letting your ego get in the way of what that animal needs. It's always about supporting that animal and bringing that animal back into balance and getting them through the medical problems that they are having with the emotional side effect. Now, this brings in the holistic method. Now, everybody's heard of the holistic pyramid. You'll find that most people say, oh, I'm taking a holistic look. And they're just looking at the animal. Sure, they're looking at the entire animal, but they're not looking at the mind, the emotions, and the spiritual body, as well as the physical. Now, in medical intuitive, it goes a little bit further, but in energy healing, we have the physical body, which is masculine, the emotional body, which is feminine, the mental body, that's masculine. Now, the emotional body bridges the mental with the physical. Then you have the spiritual. Now, if you hurt one aspect, say, okay, I'll use me for an example. I was in a bad car accident. My knees went through the dashboard of a car and I couldn't walk for a number of years. That affected all of those levels, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, because I was not in balance and I was not able to balance. And one will throw the other one out. This happens with our animals as well. You'll notice if they get hurt, I'll always say to an owner, if your horse is hurt, is that horse emotionally okay? And they'll go, oh yeah, they've had this. I'm like, no, but is there some form, and if you know your horses, you will see it. Katie would know this. She would know when King would be feeling down because something wasn't right and he needed to be put back into balance, and the same with Biddy. This beautiful little Kelpie here, and yes, I diverted away and ended up putting a dog in here rather than a horse, but Sheila had severe arthritis and was going to lose 2 toes. She had been badly abused as a pup. We were her 4th or 5th home when she was 15 weeks. And aromatherapy was the only time she'd put her nose up to mine and kiss me rather than snarl. And for an animal to do that to me, that is a huge thing. So there are 2 methods of using essential oils and aromatherapy. They are topical and inhalation. Now, before you sit there and say, oh yeah, you just put the cream on, when you're putting it on, using the oils in a really good base, you're actually inhaling. This is where our olfactory system starts to come into effect and how the essential oils work into our bodies. So when we apply the products, what is happening is that the essential oil molecules, because they're chemicals, they have these teeny molecules, they go into the pores, into the bloodstream, and then they travel through the body. As they're traveling through the body, they actually touch every single organ. There's not one organ that they miss. So when you're told you're only going to get better by ingesting oils, that's a huge misnomer and is quite dangerous. Okay, so when it travels through the body that way, you're inhaling it at the same time. And when you're inhaling, you're getting the oils that come through your nose down into your lungs. And once again, the molecules are being dispersed throughout your body. And you're having these oils releasing their naturally forming chemical compositions that contain hormones, which are used to attract bees and birds to help with pollination, to heal themselves from wounds, and so many other things. So you're actually taking in these properties of the plants, and that is why sometimes they get called the essence of the plant when they're actually the chemical of the plant. Now with us, what they start to do is when they go up our nose, and I will move to the next slide, and I talked about toxic shock already. When they go up our nose, we have these little nose hairs called cilia. Now, if you've ever been told that you don't pull your nose hairs out, this is why. It's because they're actually nerve endings. They're the nerve endings in our nose that go up into our receptor cells, into the olfactory bulb, which, if I cut my face off, are about here somewhere, like in our sinus area. And then they travel into the cerebral cortex, which is like down in the limbic system, which is like right in the very middle of our brain. So if we wanted to drill through here and here, you'd have the meeting point, and that's where the limbic system is. This is where our memories are stored, our hormones get affected, our fight-flight mode works just like our horses, except for horses are more renowned for having their flight note to come in. So this is what it does. And when you use the oils and you smell the oils, if you're overly stressed because your system is hardwired sometimes and you can't get through the anxiety, and your cortisol levels are just going up and your adrenal levels are going up, That is why using certain oils helps to bring them down, because they release the melatonin and bring the melatonin into play, which brings in the relaxation and gets you just to calm down. The melatonin is used when you need to go to sleep, and it brings it down. And when Katie talks about breathing with your horse, breathe. That is the way you work with aromatherapy. It's not just about, here, smell this and you're going to be all better. You have to do the work as well. Okay, there's groundwork with everything. If you've got a horse that is afraid of something and you're working through the limbic system to help ease a memory that terrifies them, you need to be the rock. You need to have that same thing. When you're using an oil to bring them forward, we'll say rose for emotional trauma, because it is very good for emotional trauma. That will help them to go into a state of more relaxation and be more open to trying things, but you have to be their rock. Now, for some people, and this does happen with horses, I have seen it, and with dogs, if they're not ready to release that aspect that is holding them back. Yes, Katie?
Alison has asked if we can use these oils with overly stressed horses.
Yes, you can, but you have to understand what is stressing the horse, when the stress comes into play, and what your reaction is as well. And then how you, both with the oil and the horse, can work together to bring this into play. So if she wants to give me a quick sample of what's happening,
I
do a
think
brainstorm.
we have, I know Alison has two mares that she has gone through quite a steep learning curve with, as we tend to do with
When they're estrus.
I don't know, Alison, if you want to get any deeper on that question. Yeah, Nancy and Flo need Jane, basically, is the truth.
I would be happy to talk.
I know that Alison was talking about Flo in her stable the other day, and we were working in the membership about how to make sure that your horse is feeling secure and safe with you and using consent. And Flo had been nipping her when she was going into the stable to bring her out, and when she slowed right down and used her consent, then Flo was a lot happier. So I think Alison was saying that she thinks that Flo was feeling cornered and trapped, and so when she slowed down and approached her at the intensity that Flo was comfortable with, she was a lot happier. So
I would work
one scenario.
Then I would work on the horse and rider team scenario, working them as a team and working on both their levels of confidence, because not that one has confidence and one doesn't. When one feels pressured, that reduces the confidence that they have. That most animals, when I do energy healing, their solar plexus are so shriveled because humans believe we have to be in control all the time and be on top of them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which we talk about a lot.
All the time.
But with this, what you want to do is you want to help to increase, was it Flo's confidence level.
She's also
so
4, if that helps.
She's also what?
The
she's still a baby.
I know, she's a baba.
Yes, then you want to work on her and Alison building their confidence together, building the trust. That also comes too with Alison entering with an open heart, which will feel different to Flo, because it's not something she's, most people, we talked about the bigger, badder thing, or the 10 men syndrome, when people walk up to the horses and they're like 10 men, which if you did that with Shelley, the horse literally would go through their head. She'd do this, have it in her head, and she just want to go through their head and say, I'm bigger, badder than you. My horse is big as your head. So it comes from opening the heart as well. So with this, I would look at using to relax the central nervous system. So without saying this is what you do exactly, but I would consider lavender, cedarwood, or geranium because they work on that level. But then I would look at past trauma that both horse and rider have been through. So if Alison has had a bad experience when she's approached a horse and she's holding back, then that is part of her confidence and where she needs to heal that trauma. So then you'd look at, say, Rose or ylang ylang, or both together, and you'd bring them into play. But it works on, like, even saying that it's not about using those specific oils. It is about finding the balance, which is how I work intuitively with my clients and their horses. As you know, when I did King's Blend, I went into complete meditation for about an hour, and then he actually apologized to me when he showed me some of the things that happened before you got him. So they're the sort of things. And then I actually have the blend. I either taste it, and from the taste and the smell, I know how much of each oil to use for that particular pair. And it's a real play on what they need, how they need, and then how they need to work with it to bring in that calm, gentle softness that we all want with our horses. We want to be able to walk outside and go, pony, and run up and, okay, I do this. I run up and jump on Kellyanne, you know. And you've seen Kelly and I together. She sees me coming. You said, oh my God, I've never seen a horse talk so much to their owner when they hear them coming.
Beautiful.
But that is the sort of,
has said that Nancy is a completely different ball game, but opening the heart sounds like a good place to start.
it always does. Now, what we'll find out later on, the amygdala in a horse, which is their emotional processing center in the limbic system, is bigger than a human's. That is why their flight and flight mode work so much faster, and they're like, oops, gotta run. But it's also where they get their feelings hurt a lot quicker, where they open up and have unconditional love more than what we do, because they are naturally made to have that. So a lot of what I do, as you know, comes from my heart center with the horses. Everything about them is just love, and it just, with all my animals, it's just all of that. But yes, I would, if she wants to talk to me, I am happy to sit down with her and chat and see what we can come up with. But
we will put the go-to link at the end of the post.
Yeah. Or she can just contact me. There's my email, will be at the end, or she can contact me through Facebook.
Yes.
I'm easy. Okay. So now, with the sense of smell, we also know that sometimes with horses, I don't know, Katie might know this, that at some of the shows when I was younger, I used to go to a lot of the Western shows with the quarter horses and be with the cutting horses, and I fell in love with Okalina. Now, if you know the quarter horse bloodline and you're from Australia, then almost everybody would know Oki. And I stood there one day just petting him and cuddling him, and he was ridden by Denise McCullum at the time, lovely lady. And never once did he worry about the smell of a female. And someone said something and they said, oh, no, I've got Bix in my horse's nose because he's a stallion and there's mares in season. And she sat there and she goes, ha, Oki doesn't have that. He's got so much respect for women. Now, with saying that, when they do that, that is to confuse the olfactory system from identifying a mare who is ready for breeding. So the smell, the Vicks is very pepperminty, which is actually quite dangerous because it's an eucalyptusy, because they're high oxides. In Australia, we have a legal requirement at the level of 1,8-phenol we're allowed to have, because it's one of the most dangerous oxides that there is. So tea tree, our tea tree, which is the strongest in the world, it is part of the Manuka family, like Manuka honey. They did a test to see how much stronger Australian tea tree honey in comparison to Manuka honey, New Zealand Manuka honey. It was that many times stronger that they could not put it on the market. It was dangerous. So you've got to really be careful. So that's one thing. Confusing the olfactory system is really dangerous because that comes into a point where you start to damage the sense of smell. And you damage the sense of smell as it's our very first, very first sense we are born with. We can't see, we don't hear, we smell. All animals. And we smell, and that is how we find milk with our mums. It's how we identify our mums. So if you confuse that, you're doing a whole lot of damage to your entire system. So when using oils, and I will suggest like all these different oils, but don't use any more than 4 or 5 singular at a time, and never do it in an area that is closed in without really good ventilation, because you will make yourself sick. You will end up with feeling nauseous or just plain sick, dizziness, shaking, headaches, physical pain, feeling yuck, and high levels of inflammation. Now, back in the end of January, beginning of February of this year, I had an essential oil spill and it got on my hands. That caused that much inflammation that it caused my neck to pop. So they're just, when they say, oh, no, it doesn't happen, it's benign, whoever's telling you this are basically peeing on your boots and telling you there's a storm. Because true essential oils have got a very high chemical component. They are dangerous and they can cause us harm. Keep them right away from children, keep them where your pets can't get them. My cats, even though I only have one now, I have cats, they never went near my oils. Okay, they were locked away and kept away. So if you want to know about storing, which I will just put the olfactory system of OSC, this is fascinating. What I do is I keep my oils either in a fridge that no one is allowed to touch or in a drawer. They love being in wood, but it has to be really good quality wood. And the older the wood, the happier the oils are. And I know that they're happy because I can actually hear them sing. And I will have a blend worked out and go, yep, no, this is it. And this is how I learned not to use tea tree with animals. I'm like, yeah, well, no, this will work for this problem. And the tea tree will give me my antibacterial, my antifungal. Yep, it'll help with abscesses. Yep, perfect. And I'm like, wait on, I can't use that. And it was like the oil was saying to me, no, don't use me, don't use me. Tea tree will cause paralysis in many animals. You have to be really, really careful. And when I use it in a hoof balm, my hoof balm is very, very heavy. Katie's seen my hoof balm, and it's a very heavy balm, and it's lucky if it's a 0.5% dilution of essential oils in a kilogram. They don't need high dilution. Animals need very low dilutions. So with animals generally, I only ever work as I would a child. And horses are lucky if they go over a 1%. And that has to be because there's a drastic injury that I'm trying to get skin cells to heal faster. You want them metabolized faster. You want them to produce faster. And that will be the only time that I will increase the dilution and work on the dosage and change the dosage. Now, for those of you who don't understand the difference, the dilution is the amount of oils you put in the blend that you're using in the base. The dosage is the number of times you use it, usually 2 to 3. So if you've got dermatitis like I have, or eczema, then if it's at its peak, you use it at least 3 to 4 times a day. And it'll be about a 2% dilution. And that will come down as your condition improves, and so will the amount of applications you have to do. Okay, so I covered that, and I kind of sidetracked and I segued and come back to it. The equine olfactory system is so fascinating. Now, it deals with the shape of the horse's head and the fact that they are complete and utter nose breathers. They just constantly breathe in and out of their nose. They don't breathe in and out of the mouth like us or dogs or cats. They just breathe through their nose. Okay, so their head's shaped in a way so when they breathe in and where their nostrils are, they go all the way up this unbelievable cavity. And at the top of this cavity, there are tiny little hairs. And these hairs are the receptor cells. and the nerve endings, and they hold on to the smell. Now, if a horse wants to know more about the smell, they will take in a breath and kind of, it's like they hold it and they identify and analyze so that they know where the smell is coming from. This is different from their Jacobson organ, which helps them to identify pheromones and other horses as well, I've noticed, because I've had mares that do it, so it's a part of identification. And when mares are in foal stallion, mares are in season, stallions use it, and they use their phlegm when they do the whole top curled lip part, and they smell and they're like this. That's when they're holding the smell and identifying and analyzing a smell. So what happens here is when they've got the receptor cells and they're understanding what the smell is, it goes up into their olfactory bulb. Another very fascinating thing is the right brain facultary bulb works the right side of the body of a horse, the left works the left. Rather than the normal way of doing things where the right side works the left side of the body and the left side works the right side of the body, the olfactory system actually only works the one side that it's on. Then this goes into the limbic system, okay? And that is when it starts to trigger emotions, thoughts, feelings, even down to hunger, thirst. And it does the same with us. You can use bergamot to help with people who have eating disorders. So, and if you're an overeater, it will do the same thing. If you're one of those people who tries to stop eating, even though you're overweight, it will make you eat, okay? Trust me, I found that out the hard way. But that is what they do. So they go into the limbic system, and that is where they work through. It travels also with the horses, just like us. Now, remember, they're complete just nostril breathers, and their lungs, their lungs are massive. They take up, what is it, Katie, a good half of their body? Yeah? And it's like this great big thing. And then that is also dispersed throughout the entire body. It also goes into the brain like it does with us and travels through the brain throughout the body. So the oil molecules are working so many times over, and they are then metabolized and released through the body. The metabolization of oils can be affected in a lot of ways, from general health, diet, how your body metabolizes normally, and that kind of thing. So Katie seems to want to talk to me.
Yeah. Kim has asked a question, why do they use tea tree in so many dog shampoos if it's dangerous?
Because it's not really what they're saying. It's not the quality. If you smell and you know the oils, it's even like the ones on the market that are very popular, their oils are not what they're saying that they are. And they don't use the strength of the oils that I use. A little thing that I know for a fact, I have done seminars with others, and I've had my oils, which I buy from wholesalers and farms, the actual places that grow the oils and distill them. My oils, they had theirs out set up, couldn't smell them at all. I opened my freezy bag, because my oils get in a freezy bag with their little box. The moment I opened the freezy bag, you could smell my oils. The moment I opened the box, the smell was outside of the room, okay? Their oils are not the grade that they're saying. Their oils aren't. No.
So there is a difference between the oils that you work with, because you're a qualified aromatherapist. The therapeutic value is more strictly monitored. I know the same with the herbs that I work with. Through the TGA and whatnot, we can work with highly potentized herbs and essential oils, because they can do harm. As Jane's saying, we can make people sick with them. So we are allowed to use them because we're qualified and we know what damage we can do and are careful, and we will get sued if we use them incorrectly. If you're going to be putting ones on the shelf that anybody can use, even like your herbal medicine tablets and whatnot, your essential oils, anything that's in your body products and that kind of thing, it's regulated by the TGA to ensure that nobody is going to die using them.
Mhm.
That's why working with a practitioner, you get better results, because we are allowed to use the highly potentized, higher quality products because we know how to use them without injuring people with them.
And that was what I was saying with the legal levels of what they're allowed to have on the market. But in saying that, if you talk to a lot of vets, they will turn and say to you, don't use tea tree or eucalyptus on your dog. It is not safe. But they do it a lot because they also use pennyroyal, and pennyroyal is so toxic that it's considered a poison, even in its herbal form. You know, and they put it in products for animals, and it should not be done. It is quick fix method. That is basically what they go for. They go for whatever's a quick fix. And they use tea tree in stuff for children as well, but it's not to the grade or the quality that we would use. And I point blank refuse to use tea tree on children and on animals because of the fact that the toxicity level goes into the brain and it can cause paralysis, it can cause toxic shock, and it can cause seizures because neurotoxins cause seizures as well. So this is all about avoiding and keeping them safe. I have said to one of the suppliers that I use, they have dog shampoos and all of that sort of stuff. And I asked them and they turned and said to me, oh, but you know, and I'm like, yeah, nah, that's dangerous. Shouldn't be using it. You can do X, Y, and Z. It is a proven fact. And if I can find the research notes, there's a big debate, like this massive debate on the safety of tea tree. And I think it's like 8 out of 10 aromatherapists will tell you straight out that you have to be extremely careful with Australian tea tree. So in saying that as well, another thing to consider is where it is grown, which reduces the chemical potency. So that changes the chemical composition, doesn't become as potent either. But then where they grow it sometimes, not safe.
The equine industry for sure, and I don't know if it's the same for dogs and whatnot, it's not as strictly monitored as we are as people. So there are a lot of practitioners that are allowed to do certain things and treat certain things that they aren't qualified for. And I don't know what it's like in other countries. But for example, you can be a chiropractor without qualifications in Australia. You can be a dentist. You can be anything other than a vet and still get insurance for it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the people who are doing it know what they're doing. It just is not strictly monitored to kind of make sure that everybody is on the same page and doing the right thing by the animals. If you have just that broad knowledge and you go, oh, I know tea tree is good for this and that, without thinking of the contraindications and the other effects, you quickly learn to be more careful when you give something to somebody and they have a reaction to it, like, oh, that was my fault. And you know, the topic of first do no harm is something that we are taught as naturopaths and aromatherapists, because you know, these medicines are chemicals and we can create just as many problems as we can treat. We can create more problems than we treat if we don't do it appropriately.
That's it. If we don't come from the side of the fence where we're not here to do any harm, and then it's always straight away the natural practitioner's fault that something has happened. So my vet, he is very rigid. He's brilliant. And I thank my lucky stars every day that he is my veterinarian with Kellyanne. And when he first met me, he was just like about the oils and about herbs and stuff. And because I've had done an like an understudy in herbs. That's why I have such a good understanding of them. And he said to me, and then he just turns around and says to me now, after a year and a half, he's like, oh, I don't have to worry with you. I know what you're doing, and I know that the horse's health and welfare is top priority. There's no second thought of anything else. And that is what it is with the dogs. Most of the time, Nauli and Catchput, who are also in the tea tree family, right? Because tea tree is actually the head of the family, are gentler to use than tea tree, but here's the big but. You have 0.0001 cent in cost for tea tree compared to 0.05 for Nauli or Catchput. For most of the companies, they don't use the quality, they don't use the grade, they use the one that's been distilled over and over and over and over. So it's more of a commercially grade where there's more distillation that occurs. And it doesn't have. And I just point blank, I look at it, and I've got the ladies at the local pet store. We were looking at something. I go, I can't believe that they put that, they're allowed to put that on the shelf. And she said, why? And I just reeled it off. And she said, well, thank you for telling me that, because I didn't know whether I should use it on my dog, and I'm not going to use it now. And
so Lynn has asked, do horses use a different nostril to smell an oil depending on their own need for healing? For example, one side for emotional healing and the other for physical.
That I haven't detected exactly, but what I will tell you, sis, is that I have noticed that depending on, like with Kellyanne, if I'm away or I haven't spent much time with her, and as you know, the emotional bond the two of us have, it's like we're stitched together, she will use one nostril more than the other. Does that answer the question?
I guess so.
If that will be, it may be different for each horse.
Yeah.
And it will be different for the type of oil that they use. So I would definitely put that in a most likely scenario, depending on how emotionally distressed they are or how much physical pain. Because if you're in a lot of physical pain, when you're having a physical treatment and you're in physical pain, right, you will not only just smell the oils, but when the oils are put on you, you'll still be smelling and getting them, but they will be waking up the nerve endings. So if you're doing a warm compress on a horse, like the pictures of Sheila where she had her feet wrapped up, they were compression treatments. Now, this will get the blood to flow and wake the nerve endings that come right down into the skin. And this will make the blood flow even more. So, you know, when you get pins and needles and you start to get that waking up tingly feel, that will have that effect where the painful area is. When they smell the oils, it will send the message to where it is needed. What it doesn't need, what they don't need, comes out the other end. Seriously, it literally does come out the other end. So yeah, they will know, and they do use different nostrils for different oils. So yeah, I noticed Kelly does that with her right nostril more so. But, yeah, absolutely love. That was a great question, and I actually would like to delve deeper into that. That would be really good. If anybody wants to work with me on that one, and then we can just do a complete thing, I'd love to do that.
Yeah. Trials in action.
Yeah, that'd be really good with Biddy, because if he's starting to open up a little bit more now, so that would be a good one to try with him to see what it is, which part, but he may need a blend. So okay, so we understand the olfactory system of the horse. Now the limbic system. Now this is where everything goes. This is where all the hormones are stored, the emotions, the way the metabolic rate works, the pituitary gland, which most of us who have horses with Cushing's will know about. And that can come with several things. Age can be a factor with that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they've been put through a really hard life. So the limbic system is the emotional brain. It is the primal brain of every single living creature in the world. Well, yeah, animal. Every single living animal. We all have a limbic system. This is where we work on, it's the midbrain, it's smack bang, like I said, smack bang in the middle. It is where our hypothalamus lives. This is where all our hormones and substances that control the function of our physiological equilibrium, our hunger, our thirst, the metabolic rate, reproduction, stress, body temperature. It's where we get the whole thing where we start to sweat when we're too hot, or the hair stands up. You ever notice a horse get fluffy when it's cold? That's that part of the brain functioning. And when they don't do that, then something's not quite balanced there. The thalamus, this is where the sensory goes into the motor skills as well, and the signals that come with it. So it relays the messages through. The amygdala, this is what I was saying before. It is the biggest part in a horse than it is for us. It is where the emotions of anger, fear, and sadness. So if you've had a horse that has been severely mistreated, or a dog, that is where it will sit. That is where the memory will sit. That is where the emotion to the memory, which is in the hippocampus. The memory sits in the hippocampus, and the emotion is in the amygdala. Now, with this, I'm just going to add this because it is actually quite an interesting factor. You'll find that with people, when they've been through a severely emotional traumatic experience, that sometimes they can't handle the smell or even smell certain oils. This is very common. It's a lot more common than most people realize. They will not be able to tolerate oils like rose or geranium. Maybe ylang ylang a little bit because it gives a spruce of confidence as well. They'll be okay with oils like lavender. Nah, cedarwood because it makes them open up too much. No, no, no. But they'll be okay with citrus oils. Now, I know people who have said to me, I use citrus oil on the horse because, you know, it helps make them happy. For me, citrus oils are a bridging oil from going from using lavender to going into using rose, because they do that in between. But most animals, they don't like citrus. Citrus is, okay, in the words of my dog, oh my God, that's disgusting. That stinks. And if you know citronella, they use a lot of citronella to stop dogs from barking. They have those that sprays out. And dogs don't like that. They use it for fleas. And if anybody's ever read anything about animal aromatherapy, and who was it? Is it Katie Bell? Something like that? I'll check her title of her book because I was just looking at it before. And she was, as all of us learn as we're going, she was doing her dog's bedding and started to feel really sick and dizzy and realized it was a citronella. Now, our olfactory system is pretty piss weak compared to our pets. Our horses have 50 times better smell than us. Dogs have 300 million receptor cells just for smell, and their Jacobson organ actually works on identifying other smells, not just hormones. You know, and it was making her sick. Imagine what it's doing to the animal. So, you know, you might not physically be able to see it. You might just go, oh, he's off today. Something's just not right. It just doesn't seem right. And that would be the only clue you will have, and you won't know what's going on. You won't know how to fix it unless you sit there and go, well, I used this time and this has happened, and I used it last time and it happened. Maybe that's the problem. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's something that most go through and most don't realize. So it's also why I'm very careful with dilutions and dosing I've got Zane, my dog, who, okay, his hair, being a German Shepherd, not completely long haired, but his hair can actually at the back end be as long as my hair. He has strands that are as long as mine. And no, I won't use tea tree. I won't use citronella. He doesn't have fleas. When he has a bath, an oil that I have found that both dogs and horses equally like, but it's seasonal, is lemongrass. But it's in light dilutions. Very, very light. Mixed with cedarwood. And I don't know why that is that both of them seem to like those two together. I've not found any other common oils that they seem to both like. Okay, so that's it. So that's what I would do. So in conclusion, aromatherapy is much more than essential oils. It includes the use of high quality carrier oils and other plant-based materials. Stay away from anything that's synthetic or refined because it's yuck. They're not oils at all, they're chemicals, and they don't mix with water. So when you're told, oh, just put a few drops in water and then take it, don't do it because you're actually causing yourself harm. Less is more when it comes to dilutions for both horse and rider. The essential molecules enter the body via two main methods, and that is from the pores on the skin and our nostrils. They go through the bloodstream, either from the pores or from the lungs, or when they go into the brain, and they just travel. The holistic method, the true holistic method, takes into consideration the entire being, the whole thing, the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual. Otherwise, it's just looking at the physical body and taking it all into consideration. And the olfactory system of a horse is 50 times more stronger than their riders. So when your horse is standing there going, I can smell something, and you're like, get over it. And they're like, nah, and you think it's just a bag. They're smelling something that you can't. So if they've got their prey thing going and they're ready to run because they think there's prey, you might want to sit back and go, about it, because when Kelly starts that, I always look. The limbic system works on the memories, the emotions, the hormones, and heaps more. And the horse, as we know, their amygdala is bigger than ours. There's a lot to it, but there's a lot of study and a lot of reward. So I hope you guys enjoyed this because it was a big presentation. These are some of the rules. This is Darcy. This one here is Darcy. And that was what Katie was explaining earlier.
So
yes?
I remember the reason why I told Beck to reach out to you was because the vet couldn't treat it.
Yeah, he was trying to
isn't
work out so he didn't have to operate if he could get out of it, and they were looking like they were going to.
Yeah. And that was only a month or so of treatment to get it almost complete. Not even that long.
9 days.
Oh, it's right there.
They're 9 days between. And this is a dog that I worked with, a friend's dog who had been bitten on top of the head. And it shows from like when they started using it and how many days they were using it for. Same with Burns. And then there's Blossom, which you can talk about Blossom because you were training Blossom.
I can't actually remember what happened to Blossom. But I had Blossom in for training and physical conditioning, and I used Jane's tendon and ligament oil in Epsom salt, and we soaked the washes and put that on her back to improve the musculoskeletal health of her top line, and we were able to get her sound and working really nicely, actually.
And that happens because the essential oils mixed with the warm water help to get the blood to flow and the blood right into the muscles and the nerve thing. It's all about making sure that it gets the right amount of oxygen and the right amount of healing. And the body pretty much heals itself if it has the right tools.
And that's part of using herbs and essential oils and plants and whatnot, is that if our horses were in the wild, they would have access to this in their forage. But in our paddocks, they only have access to what we feed them, and in my paddock, weeds.
Mine too.
If we don't add in, you know, some kind of foraging herbs and whatnot, and even then, like, we're not going to, because instinctively and innately they will find the right herbs for them at the time, and so we can't really provide that for them. So it takes somebody who's trained in knowing what they're looking at with what the horse is presenting with, like Jane, and knowing how the essential oils and things work to make sure that we are giving them the right ones. And I know, Jane, that when you actually are doing physical treatments with the horses, you let them smell it as well and let you know if you've got the right ones.
Oh, hell yes. Yes. And that's a lot of fun working with them, finding their own. When they find their own scent, the one that really gets them, and you'll find that 9 out of 10 animals do not like a singular oil and do not like it neat. It is way too strong for their olfactory systems. It overloads them. It's a complete and utter fascinating thing and flies in the face of what most people will tell you. But their system is that strong that it is just too much and it overloads them.
So I think that we've answered all of the questions that have come through in Facebook and the messenger chats. So where can people find you if they want to work with you and get some essential oils?
Okay, well, they can find me at EVOKE Aromatics on Facebook or on Instagram, Jane at EVOKE Aromatics on Instagram. On Facebook, it's just at EVOKE Aromatics. Or they can email me directly at jane@evokearomatics.com.au. It's not hard to find me. Just one more side note, if you're using herbs and oils, make sure that you account for the fact that they're getting something else, because the herbs have the oils in them as well. So you don't want to overdose in that respect. But I am offering a 10% discount for people who have registered for the summit. And yeah, and I'm here to talk, and I'm here to listen to see about what it is. I love you guys too. But yeah, specialized products generally are that's what I love to do. I love making sure that the animal has and the rider has exactly what they need for them. That was the same thing with the sargoids, but I'm trialing something on someone else for her warts. But the sarcoids, that is going really well. I do have photos, but I didn't put any up here because we're at the last stages at the moment where it's almost gone and the hair's starting to come back through.
Oh, beautiful.
And that's only a real weak dilution as well. So you don't have to, when they tell you you need to diffuse for 15 minutes, and if you diffuse oils in your house, make sure that you either do it in an open area, and if you've got cats cannot metabolize oils no matter what they say. And I'm pretty certain there'll be somebody else who will agree with me, because we had a big chat about this, because Sarah and I did talk about it. They lack an enzyme in their liver to process most medications, most chemicals that makes cats extremely ill. So if you diffuse, you only really need to diffuse for no more than 10 to 15 minutes and then break for an hour, maybe 2. And that is all you need to do to keep yourself healthy. It's not like they keep telling us you've got to put 8 drops of oil in the diffuser and you have to burn it all day. No, that's just so you go and buy more essential oils. Sorry, but not sorry.
Beautiful.
Aromatherapist. Aromatherapist saying, don't use that many oils. You don't need to.
That's why we love you, Jane. Tell it like it is.
The only way to be.
So Thank you so much, Jane, for your time. We really appreciate you sharing all of your aromatherapy knowledge with us. We are going to have a short break until 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to be talking dressage. So we will see you guys again soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.